the intellect of the person. In the traits of the person, it's the intellect of the person. Vav Kei are the emotions, and the garments, which is thought, speech, and deed. That's the Hey. So therefore we have two different levels of in the person's soul. We have the intellect and we have the emotions. Amalek says, let's make a wall between them. Ein Hashem Sholem. I don't want that from the intellect it should go into the emotions. Keep cool. Remain cool. You don't have to get excited. For Hashem, this is not a big miracle. What are you getting so excited? You didn't see something unusual.
He does not want it to connect?
No. He wants that the mind and heart should be separate, no emotions. He should be only intellect. Should remain a cold cucumber. That's basically what Amalek wants. And interesting, the name Amalek signifies that. What is the name Amalek? The name Amalek is Lashon Umolak. What do we see Umolak? Umolak means cutting off between, by a bird it says, cutting between the head and the body, it says Umolak, which means separating between mind and the emotions. This is Amalek. So actually, coming out of Mitzrayim, they just had it in Egypt. They're already challenged with that. And therefore it says that Amalek is the first of all the nations and the worst of all the nations. Because this is something that does not allow a person to commit their heart, commit their practical being to the Almighty. It remains in his mind, and that's it. It gets him nowhere.
So it's a sort of neurosis also.
Right.
Psychosis.
Certain, right.
Disease.
Right. In a sense, it's like, in an illness, it's called a stroke. It's like the circulation coming from the heart to the brain. So there is a certain clot. Now we'll speak a little in Kabbalah, Kabbalistic terms. What was the state of the Jewish nation in Egypt? The state of the Jewish nation in Egypt was called in Kabbalah. It's going to be in Aramaic. It's called Klas, Goy Klas. 3 within 3. So Hasidus explains it. If not Hasidus, I don't know where we would be able to figure this out. Hasidus explains, Klas, Goy Klas means it is like a child that's in the womb of its mother. What's functioning in the child? His head, his eyes are closed. The only thing that's functioning is there is the umbilical cord, which is going from the mother to him, and that's how he's being fed. His head is between his knees. Reishe ben Birkov, that's what the Talmud tells us. The head is between the knees. What does it mean the head is between the knees? What is the head and what is the knees? The head is the intellect. The knees are the practical parts of the person. The child finds itself only on the level, the only thing that's existing is the level of his knees, of its knees, which means only the practical part, the physical part of the person, but the different vital organs, the capabilities, the delicate limbs, which is the brain, the heart, it's not on his own. Everything is from its mother. So Hasidus says this was the state of the Jews in Egypt. Not only the heart wasn't working on its own, but also the brain was just like on a physical level. We find it in Halacha very interestingly. In Halacha we find that a child, till bar mitzvah, till bas mitzvah, is considered Maisa and not Machshava. Cheresh Sheita the cotton, a deaf person, a person that's not mentally balanced, and also a child, is because the Yesh Lahem Maisa ve'elem Machshava. They have only Maisa deed. We cannot rely on the thought. In other words, when they do something, it's not we can say, oh well, he intended to do this, he intended to do that. It is only Maisa. We only judge by what we see he's doing.
Where is this from, this quote?
This quote is in Chazal. It's, I think the Rambam mentions it also a few days ago. We had it in the Shir of Rambam. I'll give you a source. When a person is born, it's a big celebration. Why is it a big celebration? Because the child becomes independent. Its mission starts in the world. No longer part of the mother. A child in the womb of its mother is considered ubar yerachime. It's considered the hip of the mother, part of the mother's body. It's not an independent entity. Comes out, it's born, it is considered an independent entity. It becomes a whole joy, a whole joyous event he received a certain mission. He's able to stand on his own, and a person is able to stand, the child, able to stand on their own feet in order to fulfill their mission. And then a person starts breathing, the child starts breathing on its own. As Chassidus explains what breathing means. As we mentioned last week, Rotzi V'shuv, it's like back and forth, the circulation, the air, a person breathes in, breathes out. This is the Rotzi V'shuv, the two directions where the air is coming, the oxygen comes in and then out. The blood comes to the heart and then comes from the heart back to the body. So this is like the whole general function of the person's body, and the godly energy in the world is happening on an independent basis. The child is on its own. This is all the level of Mitzrayim. Restricted between mind and heart. Restricted also that the heart, the mind itself, even the mind, is on the level of deed, not on a more delicate level of mind and thought, but on the level of deed, because the head, it's like the child, which the head is between its knees. It's completely on a practical sense. Now the question is, how do we get out of all this? So the answer is Yitzias Mitzrayim. How does a person do Yitzias Mitzrayim?
What does that mean?
Yitzias Mitzrayim means leaving Egypt. How does a person accomplish leaving Egypt? He has to go out of his own limitations. One has to leave their own limitations. We say in the Shema a few times a day, V'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha, you should love the Almighty, b'chol levavcha, with your heart, with your soul, and with your utmost. Chassidus says each one of these three, with your heart, soul, and utmost, each one is a different standard of serving the Almighty. Levavcha is your heart, but it has a certain structure. Nafshecha is your soul, which means the character traits of your soul. But then there's b'chol meidecha, with your utmost. With your utmost means that one lifts himself up higher than their own limitations. They're doing more than required, as we mentioned earlier, more than Torah requires. They're doing more than they usually do. They stretch more, they extend more, they actually, as we would say it there's an expression in the Talmud, when it comes to the sacrifice of the eating the Passover, it says Poka Igra, the roof opened up, which means it's breaking through all the limitations. This is what Pesach means. Pesach, Passover, means jumping over all the limitations. We have, because of our concealed capabilities in our neshama, called Kechas Hanalomim, the concealed character traits, that a person could lift themselves up, that an ordinary Wednesday could be a Wednesday like an experience of Ne'ilah. In a time when a person finds themselves in Kippur, the one time in the year, the holiest day in the year, a person awakens then a very spiritual inspiration that they have, an experience. So this is a person, has the potential to accomplish it in the middle of the year, any day in the week. This is what accomplishes Yitzias Mitzrayim, leaving Egypt. When a person lifts themselves up higher than their limitations, he gets, in retrospect, Hashem, the Almighty, pays back in the same way. Pays back that He also opens up for him channels that are higher than the person's limitations, calculations, and standards, because he has lifted himself up higher. He connects them with the infinite above. So people ask a question, Chassidus asked the question, how is it that when he, a human being, limited to a certain extent, how is it that when he goes out of his own box, he accomplishes that he brings down a very essential, infinite energy in this physical world? The answer is because all the infinites connect together. Because he has lifted himself up, uplifted himself to a state of being infinite, a state of infinite, which means completely higher than his limitations. So therefore he accomplishes that Hashem also brings down, as a reward, as a reaction to his initiative,